Aloha. Wow, look at that. Welcome to our city council meeting today. We've got an early start today because of the Ironman program tonight. Oh, see, so early I didn't turn my phone off. I should answer it right here. Sorry about that. We'll get that off. That's a reminder. Welcome to our city council meeting today. Let's go ahead and get started properly. We have here for our invocation, Major Richard Green from the Salvation Army. Did I see him here? I didn't look around, but I don't think I saw him. Okay, so that means that we have one of our, Greg, would you give us an invocation? Be my pleasure. Thank you.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this opportunity to be here this evening at City Council. We are thankful for the opportunity to live in the place that we live and the great city that we have, and for the many people who serve and love this community. We'd like to ask Thee to help us make everyone have clear heads this evening, and everyone to make proper and right decisions for this community. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. And Danielle, will you lead us in the pledge?
Please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before I forget, let me make sure we excuse Mayor Randall today. I guess since she did put it on Facebook, it's okay to disclose that she is in the hospital for an appendectomy, and she traded one wristband, her Ironman wristband, for a hospital wristband. That's what she said. So, so we'd like to excuse her and wish her speedy recovery. Next, we have a whole bunch of blue back there in the back. Should we go right to that, Adam? So I think we have some. Chief Whitehead, come on up and tell us what we're here for today.
Thank you. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I did want to recognize some of our great employees, some things that we recently wanted to share. So let me preface this just a little bit and describe. So there is a national organization. It's called NENA. It's the National Emergency Numbers Association. It's a professional organization solely focused on 911 policy, technology operations, and education issues. Recently, we had 2 of our dispatch personnel and an entire shift, or the entire center, receive recognition from the Utah chapter of NENA, they call it, in conjunction with National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And I'll outline these 3 events, or these 3 awards here, just briefly. The first one, if I can have Anna Lee Stoker come up, please. So Anna Lee, she's been one of our dispatch supervisors. I think you're the newest supervisor, right? So she's been with us the least amount of time as a supervisor, but she has worked in our dispatch center for many years. I'd like to read this letter from the NENA board and then make this presentation. The Board of Directors of the Utah chapter of the National Emergency Number Association is proud to present recognition of excellence in service to Annalee Stoker. She was promoted to a supervisor just over a year ago during some of the most challenging times during staffing. Historically, the center has worked 8-hour shifts, but Annalee took on the monumental task of creating a new shift model that includes 8, 10, and 12-hour shifts. This has been a massive morale boost in the center. Before her promotion to supervisor, Annalee also was assigned to oversee the BCI, which is Bureau of Criminal Identification, all of the certification for our officers and dispatchers to have access to the state computer to be able to run those records checks. And she's been in charge of that training for the department for many years now, as long as I can remember. During that time, she created an online system so that officers and dispatchers could get trained at any time. She puts her heart and soul into making sure her staff is taken care of and is always looking to continuously improve the center's morale. And the letter concludes, "Thank you, Annalee, for your outstanding performance and your continued professional professionalism and dedication to your community, first responders, and the 911 profession. So I'd just like to give her a hand. I worry about putting her up here because she's going to have us moving all around. Thank you. Good job. All right, the next person, can I have our center manager, Cindy Flowers, please come up here. And she may be mad at me for even mentioning this, but for those that aren't aware, Cindy's actually announced her intent to retire from the city July 29th. And so we're going to be sad to see her go, but excited for new adventures. So Cindy was also nominated or awarded this Excellence in Service by the NENA chapter. And let me just read a few things here that she's really done in our center. And this is, again, just a very small piece of what she's done in her career and the great leader she is. Cindy is always thinking of how her employees how to make things better for her employees. She implemented a work-from-home schedule that helped during the burden of the COVID pandemic. She is always open to suggestions from her dispatchers that make the center a better place. Recently, in conjunction with the scheduling that Annalee proposed, she approved that so that it would allow the dispatchers better opportunity to pick schedules that would fit their needs, because we have varying needs based on families and other obligations. Cindy also was instrumental in overseeing the creation and move of our new 911 center that became operational in April of 2021. She is constantly thinking of the little things that help the dispatch staff perform to their fullest potential. And it's my pleasure to present her with this award as well. All right, and this last one is one that was to recognize our entire center. And this was an incident recently that I think many of us were familiar with, and I think it goes to to really emphasize the importance of having a well-trained staff, and our dispatch center, in my opinion, are second to none in the country as far as dispatch centers. So let me talk about this a little bit. The Board of Directors of the Utah chapter of the National Emergency Association is proud to present the award for Incident of the Year to the St. George Communications Center for their handling of the critical officer-involved shooting and kidnapping incident that occurred February 17th, 2022. Washington City police units had been looking for a subject that was wanted for a no-bail warrant for kidnapping and multiple incidents of brandishing. The suspect left a residence in a vehicle, and officers tried to stop him. The suspect kicked a female out of the vehicle and then took off with a baby inside the vehicle. This prompted a multi-state and jurisdictional pursuit. While he was being chased, the suspect called 911 many times from his cell phone. He indicated many times that he would kill the baby. Several times he was transferred to a hostage negotiator who attempted to get him to pull over and leave the baby somewhere safe. During that time, he crossed through several different cities. After about 15 minutes into the chase, the suspect fired shots at pursuing officers. The suspect entered Arizona and finally said he would pull over. He did, but continued to pose a threat to the safety of the small child. The suspect was shot, saving the hostage's life. During this incident, dispatchers had to coordinate with several agencies: St. George Police, Washington City Police, Santa Clara Ivans Police Department, and the Washington County Sheriff. They also had to coordinate with multiple dispatch agencies and other agencies outside of the state, including Cedar Dispatch, Iron County Helicopter, Nevada Highway Patrol, Mojave County, Mesquite, Nevada, Flagstaff Dispatch, Arizona DPS, and Beaver Dam Fire and Rescue, keeping everything updated. With these states across the state lines can be very difficult, because oftentimes the radio interoperability isn't, we don't have the same frequencies as other states do. And I just want to recognize our great dispatch center and thank them for their outstanding performance, and on behalf of Nina and the Utah Board of Directors, present them with this award. So, could I get all the dispatchers to come up here? Some of you guys come over on this side. Here, you get hold that right next to me.
Mackenzie should hold it. She was the dispatcher.
Two lopsided, maybe more. Thank you for the time.
Chief, thank you for that. The dispatch center obviously handles a critical service for us and the entire county, so thank you. Any comments you guys want to make?
I just think it's tremendous. I think recently when they did that thing a month ago with the dispatcher who helped a husband save a wife's life, and you sit in this room and I saw the police officers, the EMTs, the firefighters, and just the reaction they had to listening to that call. I don't think I understood the pressure, the tension, and the awesomeness of what those 911 dispatchers did, and how they really, really keep the peace and the calmness, what a critical part they are. And they're never seen. We don't see those people out in our community. They don't get the recognition, so it's nice that they are being recognized.
Yeah, I'd just add a simple thank you. I mean, when we talk about making this community great, you guys are one of the groups, one of the people that actually truly do make a serious difference in our community. So thank you so much for doing all that you do.
It certainly is higher stress than what you may realize, so thank you again. So, okay, we have a couple of proclamations. I'll start with this one since it has to do with the police, and then we'll go from there. This proclamation reads, we'll give you guys a minute, I guess. The rest of the meeting is not nearly as exciting. This proclamation reads, whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the St. George Police Department. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, and more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, including those with the St. George Police Department. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. And whereas 619 new names of fallen officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 34th Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2022. And now, therefore, the Mayor of St. George, Mayor Randall, and the City Council do hereby proclaim the week of May 11th through the 17th, 2022 as National Police Week. I didn't think of that, Danielle. I should have had you read this one.
All right.
I didn't want to. I know that's near and dear to Dan. If you don't know, Danielle's father was a highway patrol officer and was killed in the line of duty. So, so it does affect even us right up here. So, who's going to receive this? The chief? We need to have the chief come up. I'll come down and have my picture taken in my normal work shirt.
Can I get the rest of the department to come up? Hello? Oh, there we go. The rest of the department, come on up that are here. Any other employees, that'd be great.
It is a sometimes dangerous job and stressful job as well. I have the, I guess you could say, honor of meeting some of these guys in some pretty crazy situations in my real job, and these are the kind of people you want there. Our St. George Police Department, they're the best of the best. So I just want them to know that, and I do appreciate the sacrifice that they make and the danger they sometimes put themselves in. So I hope we all will remember that. We just want them all to go home. Any comments on that? Amen. All right, thank you. I like that. Right to the point. We have a couple other proclamations. Councilwoman Tanner has agreed to read the next one.
I think I got this one since it's a lot of medical terms in here. Whereas Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, are a group of disorders that affect the body's connective tissues, including the skin, joints, blood vessels, gut, and many other organs and tissues. And whereas EDS affects more than 1 in 5,000 people and people of all ages, races, and genders, it is a chronic lifelong condition. And whereas hypermobility spectrum disorder, HSD, is diagnosed when the musculoskeletal complications of joint hypermobility and joint instability arise in a person who does not have the defining features of an underlying syndrome such as EDS or other heritable disorders of connective tissue. And whereas, in addition, several related disorders are observed in a number of people with EDS and with HSD, adding to the complexity to the presentation of their condition and its management. And whereas a network of EDS and HSD support groups can help connect those managing life with these conditions, as well as better informing the healthcare community and the public, and whereas early and accurate diagnosis can provide the opportunity to create life-saving medical plans and improve quality of life, and whereas there is currently no treatment for EDS and hypermobility spectrum disorders and no known cure. Further medical research and awareness can bring hope for treatment and a cure. Now, therefore, Mayor Randall, along with the City Council of St. George, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Ehlers-Danlos syndromes and hypermobility spectrum disorders awareness month.
Awesome. Is Kristen Anderson here? Come on up and say something if you'd like, and then we'll have Councilwoman Tanner present this to you.
I'm not prepared to say anything.
No, well,
But thank you. If Mayor Randall were here, I would tell her thank you and a deep felt
perfect.
apology for her loss of her brother who suffered from the same disorder I do. And I appreciate your guys' efforts and your willingness to make this Ehlers-Danlos Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and that's certainly correct. That has affected the mayor's family. Our next one is about Small Business Week, and Natalie's agreed to read that.
Whereas America's strongest economic growth in almost 40 years has been driven by resilience of our small business, who, despite a worldwide pandemic, continue to pioneer innovative solutions to our country's greatest challenges and create opportunities for families and workers. And whereas from storefront shops that anchor Main Street to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge of small manufacturers driving our competitiveness on the global stage, small businesses are the backbone of our economy and our cornerstone of our nation's promise. And whereas when we support small businesses, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture. Whereas because of this country's 32.5 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth in America without discussing ways to support entrepreneurs. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available to entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. Small Business Administration and other government agency. Now, therefore, Mayor Randall, along with the City Council of the City of St. George, do hereby proclaim May 1st through 7th, 2002 as National Small Business Week. I get ahead of myself there. This is so important, especially in our community, that we support small business. I've been a small business person, and it really is the heartbeat of the community, and the employees that service there are just really important. And you look around at the small businesses that have been around for a long time, and it's because the community has supported them even in tough times, and I personally appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for that. As a small business owner myself, and I know all of us in some way are small business owners, and we're a great place here in Southern Utah for small business owners, so it is super important. So, and we have here today Jackie Hobson. Is Jackie here? All right, if you have a speech, of course. I'll have Natalie come down, and if you'd like to say something, you're welcome to.
No, I'm just grateful for the city for supporting, and small businesses are great, so that's
Awesome.
why I do what I do, because they're fun.
Awesome.
The Small Business Administration. Well, there you go. I know.
Jackie, do tell us right in the microphone that what you just told Natalie, that what you do, so people know.
I'm with the Small Business Administration. So about a year and a half ago, Salt Lake was able to get a office down here approved. So just trying to support the community.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, lots of good stuff going on. Is there anything else before the public comments? Okay, so at our first meeting of every month, we have an open comment period here at the City Council where your citizens are welcome to come in and talk about anything they would like. A couple of the rules are basically to be a resident of St. George, keep remarks courteous and respectful and brief, and comments cannot be related to a pending issue on the agenda or likely to be on a future agenda. So you fill out a little paper. I've got one here, and if there's anyone else that hasn't filled one out, if you would quickly do that. But Thane Wilson, are you here? Yeah, come on up. Just state your name there at the microphone and then go for it.
So I'm Thane Wilson, and about a year and a half ago I started a small business, concrete pumping business. And I've been parking my pump and trailer on the side of my house, but it exceeds the home occupation length of 15 feet for trailers, and I'm just petitioning to have that changed in the code from 15 to 20 feet. So that's why I'm here, and that's what I want you all to consider.
So you don't park, you park on your driveway, not on the,
So I park the trailer on the side of my garage.
Okay.
I haven't had any complaints, but I want to see if I can get things changed so that I can feel better about parking it there.
okay, because your trailer exceeds the 20-foot.
Yeah, it's a 17-foot trailer, but the pump that is on it, it goes off about 3 feet on the end, so it's effectively 20 feet. And so I just want to have, see if we can get the code changed so that I can feel better about parking there and be within code.
Excellent.
So
But something that we can, where's Wes at? There's John. Oh, yeah, we could maybe take his information and we could look into that ordinance.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, is that something you'd like to see added to a work session discussion?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
So the current length restriction is 20 feet, 15 feet?
15.
Gotcha. That's for a work trailer, not necessarily a camp trailer, or? Sorry.
So underneath our business, John Willis, underneath our business license section, there's for home occupations, there's a limitation of 15 feet for a trailer, for a work trailer, not a travel trailer.
Okay, gotcha. All right, something I think we'd be interested in looking at.
Okay, we'll bring it forward.
Okay. And not Wes, he has plenty to do. I stuck my foot right in my mouth when I said, I just saw you there and said Wes, but we don't need one more thing for Wes to do, right? Thank you for that, Thane. Were there any others? Okay. That being said, I guess we're right to our agenda finally.
All right, Council, the first item, the consent calendar, we have 12 items there. These have all been reviewed by staff. They comply with all appropriate regulations. Staff recommends approval. If you'd like to consider any of these individually, we'd be happy to discuss those. Otherwise, staff recommends approval.
I don't have any issue with any of them, but I did want to just make a comment that I'm really excited and happy about 2L, the public safety helicopter, and the fact that we're going to be able to do that and accommodate that. It'll be a really big benefit for our community.
It is. That
big
is a
deal.
great benefit
It's a big deal.
to us.
Are there any others that anybody needs to, sorry, Adam, did I cut you off?
I was just going to clarify for that item, for item L, we're still, as noted in the background there, we are still fine-tuning some of the language in the agreement, so that one would just be subject to legal approval.
I have a quick question on item C. The purchase of agreement with the Big T Recreation for 9 shade structures. Maybe Robert could answer this for me, but where does that funding come from? Does that just like the general fund, the special fund?
Yes, in the general fund. Savings in the general fund is what we're counting on to cover that $8,500 shortfall.
So that's the same fund that like police equipment, fire equipment come out of? That's the same fund?
Correct, yep.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks.
Any other questions or particular items that we need to talk about? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Can I ask one more question? Or one more thought?
Certainly.
So, actually, no, I'm good. I think that comes later what I'm going to ask next, so we're good.
Okay. We do have a motion.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilwoman Larkin and a second by, can I just say their first names?
Yeah. It's easier.
Councilwoman Larkin and Larson.
Let's see. There you go.
Is there any discussion on the motion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that takes us to 3.
Good afternoon, Council. Tonight's item is to consider approval of a resolution accepting and adopting the preliminary fiscal year 22-23 budget, and to set the dates for the required public hearings on June the 2nd and June the 16th. As part of my presentation, I'd like to talk a little bit about the budget process this year and discuss a little bit about the focus in this year's budget and to highlight some of the major items we've included in the 23 budget for consideration. To start off, the city's budget represents the financial plan for delivering municipal services that are expected and dependent on by residents, businesses, and visitors to the city of St. George. Development of budget involves a significant investment of time through all levels in the organization, and particularly of our directors and of our budget team and our budget review committee spend significant amount of hours reviewing the budget, gathering information, analyzing the information, compiling it to deliver a balanced budget that meets the needs of our city. And as part of the budget, we have a commitment to provide services that focus on people, advance an active and thriving and fiscally healthy community. And then along with this, again, I'd like to thank all of our directors that have spent ample amounts of time developing the budget with us, telling us what their needs are, understanding what the service demands are out there and where they're needing to provide additional focus in this budget for those needs. And then again, our budget committee and our budget team that spent ample hours reviewing and analyzing the information and balancing it out and pulling it together for the council's consideration. For the fiscal year 22-23 preliminary budget, looking at that budget, it's a $502 million budget across all city funds, and of this amount, $102 million is our general fund budget that's proposed. This year's budget's balanced and reflects a significant focus around addressing critical needs in public safety and infrastructure and facility improvements, which adds road improvements, new fire stations, water conservation-related projects that have a direct benefit to our residents within the community. A few highlights of some of the many major investments that are included in the 23 proposed budget include 26 new public safety positions, along with the equipment and supplies necessary to equip and get those positions ready to perform their tasks. 2 new fire stations, which would include the addition of a new fire station in the Desert Canyons area, and then the new fire station headquarters that'll be in downtown. Continuation of the 3000 East and storm drain infrastructure improvement project, in the first phase of extending 1450 south to the Dixie Center area with the Crosby Lane. A new reservoir for secondary irrigation in the Graveyard Wash, and multiple system improvements with new water lines, new and replacement water tanks, and continued expansion of the wastewater treatment plant that helps support development within the city and help support water conservation. Heavier focus in the budget, you'll notice as you review it, is in infrastructure this year, which is elevated above the typical year and demonstrates the city's long-term investment in our community, all while maintaining a prudent approach in the use of debt as we continue to maintain a low level of debt per capita and a debt level that's well below the state allowance for debt. Along with meeting the long-term investments in infrastructure, this year's budget continues to support the city's investment in our workforce with some improvements there. And then this budget also proposes some increases in fees and utility rates due to rising costs of providing services to our community caused by inflation. A copy of the budget has been provided tonight, and it will be available for public review on the city's website and in the city recorder's office promptly following this meeting. This year's public hearings are proposed for the budget to be held on Thursday, June the 2nd and Thursday, June the 16th during the regularly scheduled city council meetings. And then staff's excited to present the 22 and 23 budget to the council and looks forward to discussing the budget in greater detail at the upcoming work meetings on Thursday, May the 12th and Thursday, May the 26th. And with that, staff requests the City Council approve a resolution that would accept and adopt the preliminary fiscal year 22-23 budget and set the dates for the required public hearings on June the 2nd and June the 16th. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Council, questions?
So just to clarify, which I think I kind of clarified this earlier, we're not voting on anything actually in the budget. We're just voting to move this forward to have public hearings on the budget.
Yep, absolutely
Okay.
correct. We'll do final adoption on June the 16th after we do that final public hearing.
Perfect.
So there's plenty of time for the council to give input and to provide any changes you'd like to see in the budget.
Perfect, good question. All questions are good questions. That was a really good question. Any others? Any other questions?
So-
Not only, yep, go ahead, Greg.
Sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, with that question being asked and answered, and this budget is not something brand new to us. We've definitely talked about this a lot in other meetings. And so just noting those two things, I will make a motion that we approve a resolution accepting and adopting the preliminary fiscal year 2022-2023 budget of the City of St. George and to set the dates for the required public hearings.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Greg and a second by Danielle. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Does that have to be roll call? Or it's a resolution? Okay. I get there. It just takes me a minute sometimes. So this is a resolution vote. So if you could, we'll start with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Thank you. Plus, this trying to run the meeting and vote at the same time is like rubbing your belly and patting your heads. That's hard for me to do, so sorry about that. I'll get there. Okay, thank you for that. Good stuff in that budget. Lots of it. Number 4, Shane. Nice.
Hello, council. We're actually have an interlocal agreement that are hoping to get approved. This one is for the conversion of the Little Valley soccer fields from hybrid Bermuda turf grass to artificial turf. This is a great project. It's going to save about 17 million gallons of water a year. It's going to free up about 17 million gallons of water a year, and we're going to remove 7 acres of turf grass, and we're going to be able to use the fields a lot more than they have been because we've been limited by the fact that grass is not actively growing in the wintertime. So actually, it's good for the community and it's good for our water. So any questions?
Yeah. So tell me, how do you maintain it? Is it going to be like a lot less? Obviously, they don't have to mow it, but what's the maintenance on it? I don't even know.
There's just a little bit of dragging that you do to keep there's an infill material. There's either cork or a white rubber, depending on what product we go with. And that just needs to be moved from the sides to the middle. It only usually have to do that once a month. So the maintenance actually goes way down. So we're pretty excited about that.
Do you know what's the lifespan on that?
The lifespan typically is 10 to 12 years. It used to be 8 to 10 years, but the new products, they're just finding the technology has just improved greatly. Really, when you play on it, there's not a lot of difference between natural grass and the artificial anymore.
And then I've been trying to find it in the packet. So part of this is funding from the county. What is the city's portion, cost-wise?
So the total, we don't have a complete estimate. We have an engineer estimate, which is around $3 million. But we have the water department is going to put in $200,000, and then we have state funding that we're still going after, and we're actually meeting with the Conservancy District to see about some funding there as well.
Yeah, because I'm honestly torn on this one. I love you, Shane.
Yeah.
The water conservation, though, is huge, and that's why normally I'm not in favor of spending taxpayer dollars necessarily this way, but man, the water conservation, that's huge too, so.
Yeah, because those are sand-based fields,
Yeah.
They require about 40% more water than what your typical field would. So, the water saving is pretty enormous.
Yeah, thank you.
So do you feel like because the fields can be used throughout the year, that we'll have more tournament play down here, and that why we don't look to make money, that we'll be able to recoup some funds from that?
We will. We're going to have, we've already been approached by about 4 different tournaments. In fact, there's a tournament that's put on by 7 Elite. And since Washington doesn't allow tournaments on their fields until February and we don't, they've had to move their tournament to Mesquite, Nevada. And that tournament brought down about 500 teams, and each team has 7 to 8 kids on them. So there's a huge impact as far as reserving goes. So yeah, we should see some recoup there too.
And what about just normal old residents? Do they have to sign up to use those fields for soccer practice, or how does that happen?
So if a coach wants to do a soccer practice, they call our office, and it's $4 basically for an hour of time. And so they're open for community play most of the time.
So they
Yeah, and the best part is we've had to close those fields right now for overseed in September. And so there's a whole month of September, which is the best time to play soccer, that is knocked out. And now we're going to have that open. Plus, we've been closing them down December and January just because the grass gets worn down to nothing, and to protect the city's investment.
What would you say, and I don't know if you track this or not, but the use of local residents to outside groups. Do you know what the percentages are, like local to?
I don't know the percentages, but I know that the local groups, the community groups, get far more play than the out-of-state tournaments. We probably have 5 or 6 big tournaments that come down, and we'll probably have 3 or 4 more. But it's played with flag football, RU soccer leagues. There's other frisbee leagues. We have all kinds of leagues that use it. So private and city leagues.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And I want to make a comment here. I really like that Washington County is stepping up on this one. This is exactly the uses that transit room tax funds should come to.
We were very happy to see them support us.
So that
And
is
so it's
great.
1.1 million that they're providing of that 3 million?
They're providing 1.5 million.
Oh, 1.5, okay. So we'd be responsible for just the 1.5, and then some of that coming from Water Conservancy.
And hopefully the state.
Okay. What do you see the difference cost-wise of what we're spending right now with maintenance of the grass and, water and, those savings, where we're going to have to replace this in probably 10 to 12 years? Do you think it is kind of a wash financially?
That probably will be a wash, but one of the avenues we're thinking is to do a special project fund where every time we have a tournament, we have a use surcharge that when we bring these teams down, we
I
put
like that.
$5 away each team.
Right.
And then at the end of the 10 years, we should have a good chunk of the money to be able to replace the fields.
Perfect.
Great.
So
Yeah.
That's good. Very good.
Thanks, Shane.
I think the way those TRT, did I say that right? Funds work is we do have to pay at least 50%, right? Or somewhere near that?
yeah, they provide 50% of the project.
Okay.
So we're not necessarily on the hook for the whole.
We just have to find the other
Yeah.
50%. Gotcha. Perfect. Yeah, we'll take their money. Our money. Yeah. Take our money. Okay. Any other questions for Shane or comments on that? Okay. I'm ready for a motion.
Make a motion. It's going to be a great project, Shane. Thanks for coordinating it. I will make a motion that we approve the resolution entering into an interlocal agreement with Washington County for the Little Valley Soccer Artificial Turf Fields Project.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Natalie. Any other discussion? This is also a resolution, so it's a roll call vote starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy. You just skipped me.
Thinking you in a mayor pro temp role. Right?
I know.
Sorry about that.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. I'm just teasing you, Greg. Confused me for a minute. I was like, am I not supposed to vote? Okay, thank you. Yeah, the motion carried, right? Okay. Number 5. That's Shane again, isn't it? Don't go anywhere.
It is, and this is another a TRT grant for an expansion of our Little Valley Pickleball project. And this project is with the realignment of Horace Bend Parkway. We ended up with more space and at our existing complex, and so we're going to be able to add 9 additional pickleball courts, and one of those will be a championship pickleball court. So this is another one of those projects that pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country. It's probably the #1 call we get is we need more courts. If you've been down there and seen during, play business, the busiest times, there's just no courts available for play.
So once again, I'm going to ask the question about residents. They do get more time, but these can be reserved for tournament play.
Yeah, they can be reserved. We do leagues down there. We do city leagues, and then most of the time they're open for drop-in play.
And if you're a non-resident and want to do a tournament, is it a different fee than residents?
It is. I had to look at Cody because he's
the man in charge
he's
of
in
that
charge
one?
of the pickleball.
I will tell you something about Shane. I've never been with him or been in a public area, including last night, that I have not seen them pick up garbage. And it was a nice event we were at. And there they were picking up napkins and little pieces off the grass. And I think if you love your community, you're taking care of the trash first. And I think it says something about their department, the way their employees feel about St. George. So I just commend you for that.
I love that,
So
Natalie.
nice.
I walk through Town Square every day, and every day the employees are over there just like taking such special care of everything. So I second what Natalie says. You guys are awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I'm trying to find in here again. What's the total cost for that project?
It's $2 million. And so this will actually be funded by park impact fees because this is new growth. So the way I understand it is that we will be putting this, if this is approved tonight, it will go into our park impact fees, and then we'll just use park impact fees
So
to pay
this
for the
is not
rest.
coming from the general fund.
This is not.
Okay.
And it's half TRT also.
Right.
So
Is this going to make the biggest pickleball court complex in the United States? Are we like
Not
at
in
that
the
level?
United States, but besides there's a private one in Arizona, it's the biggest one we know of in the western United States. So we're already on the map. I mean, I think St. George did pickleball better than anybody and has so far.
Yeah.
We had one of the bigger tournaments that we've ever had just last April, and if you drove by Little Valley or if you live down there, you saw what we had going on. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of scheduling with other events, but it was actually televised on Fox Sports. So our pickleball courts actually were on the Today Show as well.
Shane, since I've been on council, there's nothing that can even touch the number of calls that I've had about pickleball. People love it. It's been such a great sport for young to old. And so you're going to be a hero if this passes tonight in the pickleball community. Maybe you already are a hero in the
You
pickleball
all will be
community.
a hero.
How does that compare to what we've discussed at Curly Hollow as far as pickleball courts?
So
Numbers.
Right now we have 12 that we're planning for Curly Hollow with an additional 24 or with another additional 14 possible or 13 possible. So this will be a lot bigger. So we're going to end up with about 35 at Little Valley.
Cool. Very good. And they get used.
They do.
It's not like there's empty courts there.
Yeah.
Right, Cody? Yeah. He's like, yeah. Yeah, there might be. Very cool. I think those are all good questions, too. I mean, one of the misconceptions out there in taxes, whether you like them or not, usually there's a certain tax that goes to a certain benefit. So when we talk about impact fees, that's new growth. We can use those for this situation. And then when we talk about the TRT or that transit room tax, that's what people pay on the hotel rooms when they come and visit. And they can only be used for certain things. And that's where sometimes it gets frustrating when we spend money here, but we may not have money over here because, like it or not, those taxes have to be spent in that area. Hope I said that right, but
It'd be nice if we could just eliminate those taxes, though.
and there is that, like they say, like them or not, we have to do that, and that's also a point of concern when people see it. If we have a tax on say for police and fire, they always look at us and say, yeah, but we're okay with that, but with 20 other taxes, maybe we're not okay. So it's a valid point.
Well, and I have to say, transient room tax for me is a really easy tax to support because it gives people who come here to use, we've made all these fantastic facilities, and it gives them an opportunity to contribute and help do their part because they get to be in our community, and it's amazing.
Certainly.
And it'd be nice if we didn't use part of that tax for advertising. I think the word's out there. Put it into our infrastructure.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think you'll find people know we're here, I think.
Yeah, that's a requirement that's at the state level in state statute. We've been arguing the need for more of that money to come away from marketing. We can all make a great argument that the word is out. People know about Utah as a tourist destination. Let us keep more of that and use it for the infrastructure to support it. But as it stands right now, we're still facing those limitations in the state statute. Maybe someday.
Yeah, let's stay on it for the next legislative session.
There was some discussion of that at the league meetings, so
Yeah.
it's good stuff. Okay, that brings us back to the resolution. Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution entering interlocal agreement with Washington County for the Little Valley Pickleball Expansion Project.
Second.
So we have a motion by Natalie and a second by Greg. Any other discussion? This is also a roll call vote, so all in favor, starting with Greg.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
This way, Jimmy, or that way?
That's right.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye. Okay, Carol.
All right, moving on to item number 6. This is to consider approval of an ordinance amending section 10-13E-4 of City Code for designation or designating a landmark site and to amend the allowed conditional uses for landmarks. The proposed amendments would extend the required age of a structure to 100 years old and remove the option to use the landmark site as a short-term rental. Okay. So, two changes tonight, two proposed changes tonight to this section 10. The first one, basically changing up the criteria to have a site nominated as a landmark. And then the second one is changing up the criteria, or the conditional use criteria. So we'll go over the first one. As you know, when you want to designate a property as a landmark, there's 3 items that are required. That's this ABC, which we're just proposing to change B, which right now says the building or structure was constructed before 1970, which makes it about 50 years old, a little more right now. So the proposed change is to change that age from 1970, around 50 years, to at least 100 years old. And just so you know, we have 38 landmarks right now, local landmarks. 34 of them are 100 years old or more. So there's only 4 of them that actually wouldn't even meet that regulation. So,
Carol, where did that choice come from?
I don't know. It was directed to me.
Okay.
That's just it makes it a little bit harder to get, or a little bit more stringent.
Right.
Gives us a little bit more time. Right now, with 50 years, we are getting a lot of homes that are eligible, and this just kind of pushes it back a little bit.
I'm just curious about, we can have a conversation about it after. I'll talk about it when you're done.
Okay.
But are they're wanting the landmark so they can short-term rent is kind of their idea behind wanting to get the landmark?
There has been a lot of recently, a lot of the landmarks that have switched over to short-term rentals, but I can't say everybody, that's their purpose, but there have been a lot.
Okay.
And then the second part of the criteria, we're not proposing any changes to this. This stays the same. And then for the conditional uses, we do allow, this changes here in yellow, we do allow the requested use is for low impact professional office or commercial use. And this is where we have allowed the commercial use, we've allowed that as short-term rentals. So the proposed change to this is changing the shall to may, and then the requested use is limited to low impact professional office, retail, or restaurant, and does not include short-term rentals or hotel. So that is the change to this section dealing with conditional uses. And that's all we have on the recommended changes. Planning Commission did recommend approval as presented to you tonight. So any questions, I can follow up questions on that.
I have some. Yeah. So to me, like the 100-year-old, I'm worried about that being so specific because Greg and I were talking earlier. There's this really great home in town, the Dr. McGregor home. The architecture is so cool. It's one that I think everyone who knows of it would think, okay, if they wanted that to be a historic site because it's one of the only homes in town of that nature. So what we were talking about is maybe that we need to go over this a little bit more, and I don't know if that means we pass this as it is tonight and then we have more conversation about it, or if we table it. But I guess just my concern is that there could be some homes that come in and want historic status, and that for me, if the owner of that home came and said, I really want to preserve this in its, state and make sure the architecture stays true to what it is, I would love to see that happen, but they wouldn't be in that 100-year-old category.
Eligible, right. There certainly are a lot of homes that are great quality that don't make that number. But then again, there there are a lot that
Yeah.
do too, so.
And then I guess what else I would say is then there's also some 100-year-old homes that need to definitely be torn down, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's
in
true.
my mind, I'm almost wondering if we're doing the right thing by changing this, or if we really could do what we want to accomplish by being more stringent in our statements about what is a historic home. Because I think maybe that's the underlying problem that we've been seeing, is we've been just saying if it's an old home, and if it's, I've really been thinking through this. I'm like, is it because we've just been saying if there's a story of somebody, because that part's in there. If it's somebody
Yeah.
famous and they lived in the home, you can bring their story forward, and then that can be considered historic. And we've just been basically reacting to the recommendations of our Historic Preservation Committee. They've recommended them all. So maybe, but they've also been going off of what we have written currently in the ordinance. So maybe that's where it actually needs to be altered, is what is a historic home, what's worth preserving. And maybe that involves a committee. You know, there's not that many homes downtown. Do we go around and make a map of what's actually could be considered? And then if the owners ever come forward, it's like, okay, yes, your home's on that list of homes that are considered, you know, could possibly be a historic designation. So I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
Are they getting a grant for becoming a historic designation, or other than being able to short-term rent, what benefit are they getting by going through this process?
Most of them, it's the short-term rental or any other commercial use of your property. I will say if you go ahead and continue the process and get a national landmark, you are eligible for tax credits, and there's a little bit more grant opportunity with national registry locations. Just a comment to yours, Danielle. We do have, we were awarded a grant from the state to perform a reconnaissance level survey. We're closing up the contract right now, so we are going to be working on that this summer. And one of the main goals of that is to identify potential historic landmarks. The last time we had this done was in 1992, so it's definitely time for an upgrade, or just to kind of make sure that we've got the right homes that are eligible and they're still eligible. And so that I think we're headed in the right direction, kind of finding more you know, having a set list of, hey, you know, this one meets it, you know, this one doesn't, kind of a thing. So.
Right.
Carol, if well, since we're talking about the McGregor home, but if that home, the owner of that home came in and said, we want to put a law office in there, could they do a conditional use permit? It wouldn't necessarily be a nightly rental or historic home in St. George, but they could still use it for a law office with a conditional use permit or not.
Which house are you?
It's about 3 blocks from the college.
One that's not designated right now?
It's just a residence.
Oh, okay. If it's not on the registry right now, and it does get changed tonight to 100 years, and they don't meet that criteria, then no, they couldn't do it. But if that 100 years wasn't on there, yes, they could turn it into an office, professional office.
Well, and I guess that's the other concern I have is
Right.
like, say we're the
Right.
McGregor house, they're going to be like, stop talking about our house. Well, but their home, you know, is one that I'm really thinking a lot about, because if we change this, we would basically be encouraging them, you know, if they needed the extra money for it to be a commercial space of some sort, we're saying, well, it can be a restaurant, it can be retail, or a professional office, but it can't be a short-term rental. And all 4 of those are really just small businesses. And so we're kind of excluding like one small business that maybe would actually be a better fit for a neighborhood. Because it's interesting, I mean, I know we all have, Councilwoman Towner and I were talking about kind of the nightmares of short-term rentals, but there's also the good part of them, which is, you know, you get rated. There's an automatic system there set up already where you rate the person who stays there and they rate you, and so there's this natural desire to keep it up and keep it nice, and as opposed to sometimes you put a long-term rental in there and there's that same desire is not just naturally there, or it may not be, depending on the person who owns it. So just part of the conversation that I know what our issue has been that we've been worried about. I'm just not sure if this is the right way to address it.
So I think over the last few months, since I've been on council, everything that comes forward for a landmark designation is a short-term rental. And some of those houses could maybe be considered, maybe not be considered a landmark site. I think a landmark site in southern Utah, in St. George, as we have new ones come in, I think they should be something special, really special, right? That's a landmark site, and we're designated it. And I think the carrot has been, well, I'm going to get this house to that because I want to be able to short-term rental it. And so I think it's a little bit outside of scope of the landmark sites is the problem. So I think that's what we're trying to address is if we're going to have things come forward for landmark sites, let's make sure that they're worthy of landmark status, not just because I can make more money from them.
I totally agree. And I think that maybe this just isn't the right way to address it, and I'm not sure. But I also think I've owned an old house. I don't know how many of you have owned really old houses, but they are insanely expensive. And we want them to put the money into it and to keep it really nice, but they are kind of a money pit. You know, I had a house in Cedar City that was built in 1925, and we basically had to redo every system inside of that house. But it was gorgeous, and it was worth it because it's a great house. And so I think we want there to be, but I was able to make that house into a vacation rental, and for that particular spot, it worked. And I know this is tricky because we definitely don't want, I mean, we have this housing crisis. I mean, there's so many complex issues when it comes to short-term rentals. But as far as this particular discussion about just downtown, just landmark sites, I'd just like to see us maybe talk it through a little bit more so that we get what we're looking for, and we don't just like do this and then we still don't get what we're looking for because people then say, well, at the prices that these houses are right now, which is extremely high, not worth it for me to touch this old house or to try to preserve it. So that's my only concern is I want to see these houses saved.
I agree with you, Danielle. I think we should talk about this, and Councilman Larkin, sorry. I think we should talk about this more. I think that this resolution, or what is this, this approval, this ordinance amendment tonight, I think it's a good thing just because I think what we currently have is not being used correctly for landmark sites, because I do think they should be something a little bit more than what they have been. So I would be in favor, and maybe I'll make this a motion if you're okay with that. I'll make a motion that we would approve the ordinance amending section 1013E-4 of City Code for designing a landmark site and amending and to amend and allowed conditional use for landmarks. The proposed amendments would extend to the required age of the structure to 100 years old and remove the option to use the landmark site as a short-term rental, with a caveat that we address this and look at it, and so we can make an adjustment in the future that makes it so we do preserve the homes that we should preserve and maybe the ones that don't fall in the 100-year. So this is kind of a Band-Aid for now, but we continue to look at it and update it. That's my motion. It's long.
I'll second that motion. We do need to work on it. I do think it needs a little work, but before we get more of those vacation rental properties in, I think we need to put a pause on it and work it, and I think this kind of fits that.
See, and I'm on the opposite. I think that it's an infringement of private property rights to, now we're making it even more difficult for someone to utilize their own property. And it's one thing if they're using it as a short-term rental and then those people who are there are, committing a crime or causing an issue, then that turns into another problem. But we have so many people who need the extra income to short-term rent. They're full-time students and they might have a little casita that, it's owner occupied, and they could short-term rent that and, be able to make ends meet better. And who are we to be restricting that? And I see passing this is in that same genre of restricting someone's private property rights or making it more difficult anyway for them to have a short-term rental. So I'm not in favor of it.
Can I ask Carol one more question? Carol, so as far as this database of historic homes, how far off is that?
It's due by August 31st is when it's due back to the state.
So do we feel a rush on this? Could we just table this?
I'll add, there's no rush on the part of staff. We've brought this forward simply to be responsive to feedback we've gotten on these. But by all means, let's take more time if the council feels like it's necessary, and we want to get it right, and we want it. At the end of the day, it's got to be something that the council's comfortable with.
So I think the concern originally that brought this up was that it seems like there are people just going out to find these properties that will fit good as a short-term rental, if I'm not mistaken. And so that was what we're trying to accomplish here. So that being said, I don't feel a rush either. However, we do have a motion and a second by Greg, or a motion by Greg, a second by Natalie. We probably should vote on that motion, unless you want to amend that motion.
Again, the motion was made so that we could look at this and address it. I think this could be a good way to make sure that we look at it in the time being. We do change, we do look at it, but I think it's a good temporary change. So I would stick with my motion.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the conditions that for a landmark site. That's number 6. So we have a motion and a second by Natalie. This is also this is an ordinance, so it's a roll call vote, correct? Okay, so this is a roll call vote, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, nay.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, nay.
So the motion carries 3-2.
Can I just add to that? I think oh, sorry.
No.
Still cut. I think that's something with ADUs that, this may be part of a later discussion, but if you're a primary resident, could you short-term rental if it was under the same roof? And Tanya probably could answer that better than that, under the same roof in that situation. I understand what Councilmember Tanner's saying, but at the same time, I feel like we're taking a home away from a resident who could be living in there, even renting from that owner or owning that home.
Hold that thought one moment. So the motion carries 3-2 to pass the ordinance, remembering that we're going to have some further discussion on that, most certainly the 100 years. Right, right. Yeah. Okay. So now back to what Natalie was saying, and I was going to bring that up as well. There has been some discussion on in the past, and we can move this forward at some other point, I guess, if you want to discuss that, about the option of a short-term rental in an owner-occupied property. That's what you were saying, right? So a property where someone lives, they have a casita. Going back to what Councilwoman Tanner was saying as well, they would like to rent out on a short-term basis. Again, that goes back to taking away a long-term rental, but again,
Still living in the home.
correct.
Would have to live in the home, but to her point, if somebody lived there, they could have a college student live in the casita, or they could have a weekend warrior who's here for the Ironman come stay for that week under their roof. Would that be a possibility?
And there's certainly a possibility that we can discuss that and look at that if we want. I know that's been brought up in the past. I would just say, again, we need to remember, I mean, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of long-term casita rentals, young married couples who cannot get into anything else. There's a real danger it could take that away from them as well. So there's always consequences. Whether or not we want to do that or not is another question. But if that's something we want to talk about, I'm certain.
Yeah, I'd recommend where that specific question is not noticed on the agenda for discussion, we can plan a work session for that and just really get into it, look at all the pros and cons.
Excellent.
Okay.
Let's do that. Okay. We're down to item number 7. It says Dan, not Wes.
Okay, item 7 is a request to amend the Hillside, this is Wes Jenkins. Item 7 is a request to amend the Hillside overlay map by adding approximately 23 acres to the existing Middleton Ridge Hillside overlay zone. So let me see if I can scroll down. So right now, this is the area we're looking at right here. Obviously, the yellow line is the city boundary line right through there. And so it's just this area right in here. This right here is the Middleton Ridge Hillside overlay area. And you can see it misses out on this hillside or this ridge line right here that is not part of it. And so in theory, this could be removed as part of some type of development. So staff took this to Hillside. They recommended approval, felt like it was a substantial hill that should be protected and maintained. Took it to Planning Commission. There was a lot of discussion at Planning Commission. The one thing they were concerned about was where should that line. So right now, the proposal is to include it down to here. Planning Commission, there was some, like I said, there was a fair amount of discussion. One of the proposals was to just put it at the base of the hill, and so they had some discussion. Eventually it was voted on, and some of the discussion was, well, you're including property that's less than 20% in the hillside. The reason we chose this line here was it followed a property line, and in this instance we just chose to follow the city boundary line and include that area. Again, as we explained to Planning Commission, any property within that area less than 20% that is not impacted by the overlay zone. Only when it gets above 20 does it then kick in or trigger the hillside review and so forth. So that was some concern from them. There was some discussion, like I said, just putting it at the base of the hill. Ultimately, it was a 4-2 vote in favor, but pushing the line to the north side of Middleton, the old Middleton right-of-way. And so, and again, that would follow property line too. It would take, because this is a property and this is another property, but so that was that's what they recommended. That's just what Planning Commission recommended. You're obviously the ultimate authority on that. Like I said, when we took it to Hillside, this is what we proposed at Hillside and at Planning Commission.
Saying the shaded area is
the
new
the
area.
shaded area, correct. And again, we recognize that all of this, well, not all of this, but a fair amount of this is below the 20%, so the Hillside would not have any impact. It's really just right here. But again, we were just trying to follow a property line.
When you look at the pictures, so I don't know if you have the pictures there, but when you show the pictures of that actual hill there, I think it definitely does follow in with the hillside, and it's very prominent. I mean, you see it when you drive in. It's definitely a hillside area that I think should fall underneath it. So I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, I agree. I was really shocked to find out that this wasn't in the hillside overlay. I think it was probably just an oversight, so it makes sense.
Right.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending and extending the hillside overlay zone in order to include additional approximately 24 acres located generally north and west of the Red Hills Parkway and Middleton Drive intersection known as Hillside Overlay Amendment.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by, was that Natalie? By Natalie. Any further discussion? This is an ordinance requiring a roll call, right? Okay. Starting with Natalie.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 8. This is Dan.
Yes,
Nice.
thank you. Yes, this is item 8, which is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the desert color plan development residential zone in order to construct 100 units to be known as Sage Haven Plat C. Hopefully, this is phase 12. Hopefully the trip out to Desert Color was helpful yesterday, and you're able to maybe visualize some of these applications that you see all the time. This one is in Sage Haven, and as was noted yesterday, that is kind of the southern portion of Desert Color. You have Auburn Hills to the north here. Yesterday we stood in the building clubhouse right here at the top of this map. All this is on PDR. The commercial section that they talked about yesterday is up here off the map, but for our purposes today, we're looking at Sage Haven right here for this one. We have a couple of others as well. You can see that probably better described here on this map. Again, you have the resort, you have Auburn Hills, and then down here in the middle of Sage Haven is phase 12. This is their proposed site, so you can see series of 12 buildings, larger ones around the side, and then in the center you have smaller ones they're basically the same product, but they're split in half in the center there so that they fit better. And then this is a look at the site plan, a little less cluttered, so you can really see what they're proposing. Entranceway over here on the southern portion, portion of the property, and then one over here on the west. And then the landscape plan proposed. Again, the colors, they're really trying to be water-wise. You'll see a lot of shrubs, water-wise shrubs and trees, but really shouldn't be any sod or grass. Elevations, this is what they're looking at. Materials board is down there, if you want to look at that as well. And then these are the ones that are basically cut in half in the center. So again, look very, very similar, just basically split in half. And then these are look at the renderings of the buildings. So that is the proposal. If you have any questions, I can help try to answer those, or the applicant is here as well. The Planning Commission heard this as well, and they recommended approval of it.
So do these have alleyways as well?
These are, let's go back to that. These are alleys, yes.
And what is the width on those alleys?
I'm sorry?
The width?
Bob may be able to answer that, or Wes, better than I can.
Bob Hermanson, appreciate your questions. So these are actually in this space. Let's see, is this, these are all public alleys. So these drivable surfaces are actually larger than our typical ones, just given the nature of it. So these are 25 plus 20-foot driveways. And so these are substantially larger than the other areas.
I'd like to hear that, Bob.
Yeah,
that's good news.
That's awesome. And so, yes, as you can see, it's hard to depict on here, but you can see the elbow room, if you will, of area. This entire area all the way through here is substantially larger than anywhere else that we have so far.
I like it.
Good question. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plan Development Residential Zone in order to construct 100 units to be known as Sage Haven Plat C Phase 12 on approximately 4.9 acres located in the northeast corner of Silver Birch Drive and Emerald Point Drive.
Second. Oh.
We have a motion by Greg, second by Natalie. Any further discussion on the motion? Oh, I am so sorry, Michelle. Second by Michelle. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is also a roll call vote, so we'll start with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Stay right up there, Dan.
Yep. All right. The next item, again, Desert Color, is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plant Development Zone to allow the addition of pickleball and bocce ball courts and gathering areas to the amenities. So you may have noticed as you drove in yesterday, as you drove in to that street that goes down to the clubhouse, on the right there's an open space. And that's where we're looking at this application tonight. So here's the clubhouse. It's in this space here. You came in on Lagoon Parkway and then turned onto this Beach Club Drive. We're looking at this parcel right here. It's about 1.5 acres. Kind of a mixed land use, but generally speaking, it is the town center land use designation, and it is zoned PDR. So it's all part of the Desert Color PD again. As part of their amenities, of course, they have the lagoon, they have the clubhouse, they have the pool, but they want to add some more amenities, so they're proposing some pickleball and bocce ball courts. Take a look at that. So here is what they're proposing. These are the courts here. Bocce ball in the center. I know absolutely nothing about bocce ball, but it's probably fun, I'm guessing. And then You have some grassy areas here. So this is one of the areas that they will have a little bit of grass. Again, they're trying to centralize those areas so that there will be less grass on like individual lots of their residents. So that is what they're proposing. This is the landscape plan. Did that well. And then here are just some aerial shots of what they anticipate it looking like, how it'll come together. So with that, again, the Planning Commission heard this proposal, recommended approval. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
That's going to be really nice right there. That was a lot of fun to go out there and see everything. It's Bob behind you. Thanks, Bob. Oh, there you are. That was fun. Looks great out there.
Amenities up front. That's a nice thing.
Amenities up front. Yeah, it's really awesome.
That's what I was going to say.
I think we were all a little jealous of the lagoon
Oh, man.
that we don't have access.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
And
really
more
pretty.
pickleball courts. I mean, what can go wrong, right?
Can we amend this ordinance to make it so all city council members have access?
Absolutely. Yes, we can.
It probably does.
Oh, great. We have an attorney here.
Dang it.
Rain on the parade.
No, a lot of people out there, we definitely like amenities out there for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Make a motion?
Go ahead. I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance amending Desert Color Plan Development Zone to allow amenity area for Regency at Desert Color on approximately 7.85 acres located generally at the northeast corner of the future Canyon Wash Drive and Alder Grove Drive intersection.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Natalie and a second by Danielle. Any further discussion on the motion? This also, I feel like it's a cruel joke, but it's also a roll call, right? Okay, so starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Somebody's got to be paying attention. Good, we're done. No. No. Okay, so let's go back and strike that. Make the right motion.
Thank you, Christina.
Christina's paying attention. Well, part of the problem is today is what? Cinco de Mayo. So if you haven't noticed, for those of you that are still here, so the chiefs don't eat it all. There is some chips and salsa in the back there. You're welcome to help yourself to some chips and salsa in honor of Cinco de Mayo. So go ahead with that. Yeah.
Can we just skip 10? Just go to 9?
Yeah. So back to item number 9. If someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of ordinance amending Desert Color Plan Development Zone to allow additional pickleball courts and bounce ball courts and gathering area and amenities to known as Desert Color Recreation Area on approximately 1.49 acres located generally between Akoya Pearl Road and Lagoon Parkway.
Second.
So we have a motion by Natalie and a second by Danielle for item number 9. Any other discussion? Starting with Danielle again.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Now back to 10.
All right. Number 10 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plan Development. Once again, zone to allow an amenity area for Regency Desert Color to be known as Regency at Desert Color Amenity Area on approximately 7.85 acres. And this one's located generally at the northeast corner of Future Canyon Wash Drive and Alder Grove Drive. So this is roughly the site, as close as I could get it. And this is, again, showing residential land use, and the zoning is PDR, so Planned Development Residential. You've seen, actually, the Regency at Desert Color phases 1 and 2 previous to this. So you've seen the general layout of that. I think that, I can't remember if I included that. I did not. Oh yeah, I did. So this is basically what you've seen as far as the plats go, and as far as the, there was some attached product up here that you approved. So what they're coming back with now is their amenities. So that's what you're looking at tonight. This is the amenity site. Again, you got your pickleball courts, 6 of them here, and you have the fancy pickleball court up here, which is for the tournament winners. They go up there and play pickleball, and then you have bocce ball down here. Again, some more grassy areas back in here to kind of keep that grass all in one place, the gathering spots. And then you have an outdoor pool over here, an indoor pool with a clubhouse as well. So quite a bit going on. This is a large site. It's about 7, like I said, almost 8 acres, and then landscaping throughout. This is what the landscape plan, the conceptual landscape plan looks like. And then, again, just to kind of get your bearings, this is where the site is in relation to the rest of Regency. And again, Regency is the one that is the 55 and older community. So that is the site. And then this is a look at the clubhouse. This is what they're proposing as far as elevations go. And then you can also see there's a few little outbuildings that will be scattered throughout the site as well. And then some renderings of the buildings and what they propose the site to look like. It's a desert territorial, by the way, architecture. So that fits within the scheme of desert color. So with that, again, the Planning Commission recommended approval. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Didn't we already do this one?
I was going to say. Yeah, that's what confused it. Said amenities. Any questions on item number 10, to be specific?
I feel like you need to do it again.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion for item number 10, for real. You don't want to make the motion again?
You did so good the first time.
She's going to vote against it now.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plan Development Zone to allow an amenity area for Regency at Desert Color to be known as Regency at Desert Color Amenity Area. So creative. On approximately 7.85 acres located generally at the northeast corner of the future Canyon Wash Drive and Alder Grove Drive intersection.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Michelle. Any further discussion? Not. This is an ordinance requiring a roll call vote, starting with Greg.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye. If it makes you guys feel any better, they are entitled to the amenities, to use the amenities that we approved in 9.
Oh, good.
Back to Carol.
Okay, yes. Hi, Carol Davidson, here to read off number 11, which is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Humane Society Plan Development Commercial Zone to allow construction of a medical clinic and pet resource center on approximately 2.35 acres located on the northwest corner of 2860 East and 850 North Street. Last time Humane Society was here, they did get their PD approved, and now they're coming in with a plan development zone change to actually put in a structure at this location. 850 North here, Costco there, climbing gym here, and then Cal Ranch up north of it. So our general plan land use is commercial with PDC as the zone. So this is a site plan. It's kind of put on the aerial, so you can kind of see how this is going to fit on the lot. There will not be any entrances off of 850 North. They will all be off of this private drive that accesses Cal Ranch and the climbing gym. Kind of zooming in a little bit, something unique about the Humane Societies, they always require a fence around the perimeter, so they will be putting in a fence or proposing to put in a fence that surrounds the entire development. And the purpose for the fence is in case any of the animals get out in the parking lot when someone's taking out their animal. They just notify someone and then they shut the gates. They find the animal, secure the animal, and then open the gates back up. So that's the purpose of the fencing. They're also, they don't have a specific landscape plan, but they will be required to do street tree landscaping along 850 North, and then everything you see in yellow will be landscaped according to our regulations. They are parked according to the different uses, and they've got plenty of parking. For phasing, they are proposing 2 phases. Here in purple, that's phase 1, and that's just the medical clinic. Phase 2 is the pet resource center, so this is what they would build in purple if they did just phase 1. But they're trying to get enough money to do both phases at the same time, but this is in case they don't. So on to elevations, the fun part. This is looking out on that access road. So this faces the climbing gym. This is their main entrance. Backing up a little bit, you can see their fence around the property. Now this is what you'll see on 850 North. This is their fence once again there. This is facing the vacant lot that's on the west side of the parcel. And then this is what you would see if you're standing in the Cal Ranch parking lot. And this side of the building is the employee area. They've got the area where they can bring in the animals and take out the animals through there. Overhead of the area, they were required when they got their first zone change to have a courtyard area for the animals. So they do have this. This portion right here is the medical clinic. So just this portion would be built in phase 1, so they wouldn't even be having pets staying there, boarding there for phase 1. And site plan of phase 1 only. And the elevations, and this is just phase 1. And here we are from 850 North. Oh no, sorry, that was the parking lot. This is 850 North. And then the east vacant lot. Oh no, that was the Cal Ranch side. They don't have one on the east vacant lot. The lighting, actually they did send in a lighting plan. It does already meet our regulations on that, so they're good on that. And then the materials board, I do have the actual materials here. Some of these pictures kind of make it look a little orangey, but it's these first 3 brick ones and then the white one for where they do the animal murals. Is the material boards. This did go to the Planning Commission. They had a hearing, a public hearing is what I was trying to say. There was one comment made at the public hearing, and then there was also one comment that was sent in, both of them from surrounding property owners. The Planning Commission did recommend approval as presented, and if you have any questions, the applicant is here as well if you have any questions for the applicant.
I just have one about the fence. What material are they using for that fence? How are they going to keep that looking nice? I'm really excited for this project, by the way, but I'm just curious about that fencing. If you know how the tumbleweeds gather and sometimes that kind of fencing. Well, I don't know what I'm seeing actually.
Yeah, and it looks like it's either wrought iron or chain link painted black, but I can have the applicant address that question.
Hi, I'm Craig Cook. I'm the president of the Utah Humane Society. Yeah, it would be wrought iron in all probability. It would have to be a very high grade. And the way we do this, I don't know if you've ever seen our shelter in Salt Lake, but we have a fence all the way around with automated gates. And then, you know, every now and then, very seldom, but someone escapes, like they bring them to the clinic, and we push a button and all the gates shut. And so we haven't lost anyone for several years. So that's what we would have around the entire facility. And you know, just to give you a little background, if we're assuming we get this built, this would provide 30 dogs and 50 cats would be housed at one point. We would probably adopt about 700 dogs and 400 cats a year. We would have a professional staff of 27 and a payroll of almost $2 million. We would be, by doing this, you know, we would help Washington County and St. George because it would greatly reduce your problem with animal control, because right now there isn't a facility like that anywhere in the county. We also are projecting this for 20 years in the future. So we're building this because this is the fastest growing city in the country, as you know, and we are projecting it for 20 years to accommodate all the animals. And finally, we've done all we can do to find the red rock. We wanted really to use a red rock theme, which is unique in the country. We've looked at hundreds of animal shelters, and there's not a single red rock. So we think this will really be unique, and a lot of people will come from all over the country just to see it. So we're now, assuming you approve this, now we have to do a fundraising campaign, and we're hoping we'll be able to raise enough for the whole building. We're getting estimates between $6 and $10 million. So that's a lot of dogs having to work to pay us that money. So if hopefully we'll be able to get some generous people. So if you have any other questions.
We're excited. We hope your facility does get built here. It'd be a big help for our animal control and good addition to our community.
And we're really excited about this location. We're right in the heart. A lot of times they put animal shelters in by the dumps and by the airport, and people just don't go. But this is right in the heart of Costco, and it'll get a lot of people coming and spaying and neutering their animals, and it'll be a great location for volunteers. So it was really a battle finding that, but we really are happy with it.
Thank you.
So, okay.
I have a few questions for staff. Carol, what was the nature of the public comment that was received?
The one at the Planning Commission, the person that came to the Planning Commission, they were worried about traffic. Just actually the intersection that's down here, the four-way intersection, because they were across from it, and they were saying there was a lot of accidents. They said they weren't necessarily opposed, but they didn't like it. So, and then the written comment should have been in your packets, and that was from the owners of the climbing gym, and they thought it was a great addition. So
that intersection is a four-way stop. It should function well. My next question is regarding the streets to the east and to the north. Mm-hmm. Those are both private, correct?
This is private here, yes, and then this is private.
Okay. Who's responsible for the maintenance of that? Because both of those streets are in very poor condition. Mm-hmm. Is there a common area owner? I mean, I can tell you, I drive those frequently. They're badly cracked. There are very large potholes. Mm-hmm. What's the schedule or requirement for maintenance on those roads?
I might have to defer to Wes.
Maybe a better question for Wes. I don't know.
I wasn't around when they did this plat. I know it's a lot within that plat, so it's something we'd have to look on the plat. I'm sure it's a common area to the association. So
is there a valid association there, or has it just been abandoned? Was it ever even established?
I don't know. That's a good question, and that's something we'll have to follow up on. Yeah.
What would be this property owner's responsibility for that?
Well,
are there any improvements to those areas that this site would be obligated to contribute?
The only one I can think of in the past was when the Moore business came in, and their driveways and parking lots were in bad condition, and they requested a zone change. And so as part of that zone change, we made them upgrade those roads within their development because they were so dilapidated. I don't know if that's something we can request here. I guess that's a good question.
The site improvements, I would assume, just based on the plan, would include, for example, the curb and gutter,
right,
the sidewalks that are not there right now,
yep,
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Adam, you do bring up a good point. I've been on that road recently. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And then you've got those two islands, both the roundabout and the one kind of in the bottom right there that was on that site plan. They're both just a mess. Yeah, I don't think they've ever been improved.
Yeah.
But I don't know necessarily that
we
it's
can check
this
in to that.
this applicant's responsibility.
How do we identify that? Whose responsibility that is?
Let's do some research onto the, those private streets, how they were dedicated, to whom.
Does that need to be part of a motion?
Or maybe table it until we find
Did-
out that, because that's a big deal.
Does the applicant have any information? Is there an association there that you've been involved with at all when you purchased the property? That anything discussion on those roads?
Well, initially it was an ordinance, I can't think of the name of there used to be a big store there, and it was all purchased maybe 30 years ago. Then they went out of business, and then Cal Ranch came in, and then Contact Climbing came in, and there was a piece, sort of a covenant on that whole property where we had to get approval from those two to use this one. So I assume there's some kind of a mutual agreement here on those, at least Cal Ranch and Contact Climbing. So
Have you been told, sir, that there's an association that you have to pay into, like a
No.
common area association?
No, there's no association, but I think it did have all these different rules on maintaining, property and keeping things clear and things like that. The original covenant of I don't know, 1980 or something. So, but we, of course, having not been there, had nothing to do with the road at this point.
It shows right now, if you look on the city's GIS system, it shows that that road on the east side, and then half of that roadway on the north are on the site of the Cal Ranch, and so it may be an issue that we need to discuss with Cal Ranch.
Yeah.
And then if the applicant is required to install, the curb and gutter on their, it looks like their lot comes about halfway into that northern road. So that part would be this applicant's responsibility.
So they'd be responsible for maintaining the road as well? Somebody has to, and it's not a city road, right?
Yeah, right now, half of that northern road is on this property. It's lot 1 of the subdivision. The rest is Cal Ranch, and then the entire roundabout and the east side road, those are part of the lot for Cal Ranch. So we may need to just visit with Cal Ranch and see what those plans are. Do you see that, Wes?
So is it private drives? It's not actually roadways, it's private drives.
At the very least, I think the applicant would want to know what your responsibility is as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at the final plat right here, John pulled it up. The note 12 just basically says, in addition to annual, usual, and special assessments for maintenance of common non-public improvements contained within the subdivision, the association/lot owners shall pay the costs necessary from time to time to repair, restore, or replace private streets, landscaping, and so forth. So it's either.
When was that one done?
This is when the plat was recorded back in 2000.
Is that when Taipan Trading, what was it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, right.
Don't ask me why I know that. They had one in Salt Lake, and when they came here, my wife was all over that place.
And really where it is private, again, we wouldn't necessarily be, requiring the maintenance. It's kind of, it's a detriment to their customers, but it's worth a conversation, that
That's where
staff
their
could have with
access
Cal
points to their
Ranch.
business is.
Right.
Yeah.
So to the question that was asked, I forget who asked it, but as to whether or not this application could proceed tonight, I think it could.
And we can send code enforcement out there to look at their landscaping, because if they are in violation, we certainly can start that up.
I have one more question for you, Carol. I look at this and it looks like a lot of desert scape. I'm not seeing, and maybe that's not finalized yet, I'm not seeing very many trees inside or in the parking lot or.
Are you talking Are you talking their site plan?
Mhm.
They don't really have, this is not showing their actual landscape plan. This is basically a concept plan, so they're not going to have any grass, but they are going to have a little bit more landscaping. Right now it's just showing all yellow, so except for the street trees.
No grass at all for those little puppies?
Well, they might have something for.
We'll have trees for the dogs somehow.
There'll be a fire hydrant close.
And this isn't the landscape plan that will be put in. We'll go through that during the site plan review process.
It looks pretty stark.
Yeah. Yeah, and the elevations, yeah, it does look very empty. It will be filled in.
Great, good information. Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Do you want to do it?
Sure.
Will you add the wrought iron fence?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Humane Society Plan Development Commercial PDC zone to allow construction of a medical clinic and pet resource center on approximately 2.35 acres located on the northwest corner of 2860 East at 850 North Street. Do we want wrought iron in there? And we'd like to request, or part of this motion would be that we follow through with the wrought iron fence that surrounds the property.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Greg, second by Danielle. Any other comments or questions on the motion? This is an ordinance. Start with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Get that money raised. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Okay, Carol Davidson again. Moving on to item number 12, which is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Atkinville Planned Development Commercial Zone to allow construction of 2 new commercial buildings on approximately 9.41 acres located at approximately 4400 South Desert Color Parkway. And let me go over the staff report here. So just getting your bearings here, this is the general location. We've got I-15 as it crosses Southern Parkway, and then we have Desert Color Parkway, at which it fronts or sandwiches in between 15 and in the Desert Color. Right now, the general plan map is E for employment, and the zoning map shows it PDC, Plan Development Commercial. And for this area in the Atkinville plan, the approved uses are C2 uses in this area. So this is the site plan. The applicants did come before the Planning Commission. They did continue the item over onto the next Planning Commission meeting just because there was some issues with parking. So they've reduced actually both buildings by 10,000 square feet each, so 20,000 reduction in the buildings so that they could get more parking on the site. So we've got building number 1, and this is the Moto United building. That one is just over 100,000 square feet. It will be the location of they're selling their vehicles, their sports vehicles. So they will be all actually displayed in the building. They will have a test track out here along I-15. And then the second building is it's just going to be built as a shell for tenants to lease. It is just over 57,000 square feet. And then you see the parking around each building. So for parking, they definitely meet it for building number 1. For building number 2, for the uses that are allowed, the parking is it was a little tight, and that's why they increased the parking lot and reduced the size of the buildings. So there were concern from the Planning Commission members that they wouldn't be able to find uses that met because they can't use this as 100% retail. They don't have enough parking for it. However, they do have enough parking to meet right now. They could find uses that would work in that building. The test track, there was concern about dust. The applicant did come back and say that their test track would be made of concrete, so there will not be any dust. At the Planning Commission level, they did talk about the noise as well. You won't even be able to hear it over the freeway noise. So onto
Carol,
the
sorry, can you stop on that one really quick?
Yeah.
How do we know you're not going to hear it over the freeway? I mean, is there another track that we know? Because to me, it seems like they rev those engines, and those are really loud. Like when you go by
the racetrack there in
Right,
Vegas. I
right.
mean, you're on the freeway and you can hear that, and I don't think loud,
Right.
and I don't think Sun River's going to love that if it's.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, this is what they gave us, the information that they gave us, there's around 70, and I mean, these are just the small vehicles, they're not, the big racing cars.
Okay.
So they assume that there are about 70 decibels and then 80 for the freeway. And I will mention too, this is just for someone wanting to buy a vehicle and then try it out. There's not going to be lights
It's not like
out there.
racing, it's just like testing.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
test driving the vehicles.
Okay.
There's not room for multiple vehicles going out on at the same time. And they wanted to do it concrete just because they're keeping those vehicles in the showroom and they don't want to have to clean them off every time they go out there as well. So, like I said, they will only be there during the daytime.
Well,
So building 1, so this is Moto United, elevations are right here. This is what will be facing I-15 and then the two sides, and then this will be facing Desert Color Parkway. And then for building 2, this is what will face Desert Color Parkway, the two sides, and then this will be what faces the Moto United building, the building number 1. The Planning Commission kind of wanted to see what that test track would look like from the freeway. This is a rendering of that. It's really difficult to see, but there's a vehicle right here. There's a yellow vehicle, but the vehicles will drop in off the parking lot level, and then the test track will actually be lower elevation than the parking lot, so it will kind of be hidden down under there, so kind of difficult to see from the freeway. This is the same perspective, looking at it from the freeway. And this is building number 2. So this right here is what will be facing Desert Color Parkway, and then the side, and then the building 1 will be back behind it. Once again, this is looking in off of Desert Color Parkway, and then this is an evening shot of what it would look like with the lights, and we'll make sure that these are night sky, all these are night sky lights on these. Landscape plan, this is the plan they provided for landscaping around their building, and we'll double check that during site plan process to make sure that they're meeting our regulations on that. Recommendation, this did go before the Planning Commission. There was a public hearing, there were no public comments on this item. And the Planning Commission did have 8 recommendations. I'll quickly go over them. They want to make sure it meets section 10-8D. They want to make sure that number 2, that they do the required street trees along Desert Color Parkway. And number 3, that for building number 2, that the uses meet C2, and then the parking meets our parking regulations. Number 4 is that demo test track is constructed and maintained with low dust. And then if they decide to abandon that at some point, they need to landscape around or over that. Number 5, any vehicles displayed, they'll need to meet the regulations of our code. And if right now they don't have any outdoor regulation or outdoor displays planned, so if they want to bring some in the future, they'll have to come back here. The 6th one is they'll work with staff and Desert Color on the access locations, which we actually have already been working on that, and their site plan shows that. And then 7 and 8 deal with shared parking and shared access agreements for both lots. So with that, any questions for me? I can certainly answer those questions.
Got 2 questions about the track area. Did they plan on landscaping around it? So the top's paved. Will it be like landscaped around?
Yeah, their landscape plan doesn't really, they show a little bit of landscape along the building, but they don't show any in front. We could definitely put that as a stipulation that you want landscaping on the other side of the track along I-15.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Just if we have a track up there, I can see where it's kind of a cool thing to get people to come in to have it see there, have them see it and stuff. So I can see why they want to put it there. I just like to make sure it's just not, some pushed up dirt. And
Well, I think that's the confusing part, because if you look at their renderings, it does show trees and shrubbery on the I-15 side or the Desert Color side, but it doesn't show it actually on their plan site. So it's conflicting like that. So I'm with Council Member MacArthur, that they flipped that they put the trees on the other side of the track.
What's the brown area below the track? What is that? Tension basin, or if you go below the track, what's the?
Oh, this,
there we
yeah,
go.
it's a detention, I think, or
Okay.
maybe it's retention. I don't know, one of the two.
Yeah. Okay.
Stormwater stuff.
I think Planning Commission worked really hard on this to make this come together, and if you read the stuff from Planning Commission, they did a really good job at trying to accommodate this person and still make it a nice area for the residents who live around it.
Perfect. Any other comments? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Yeah, it's a nice looking building. I will make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Atkinville Planned Development Commercial Zone to allow construction of 2 new commercial buildings on approximately 9.41 acres located at 4400 South Desert Color Parkway. Just noting that there would be landscape all the way around the test track.
Second.
And can we include all the conditions Planning Commission put with that?
That's just automatic, right?
Is that
We need to
automatic?
automatic. Okay, yep. With the recommended conditions. Good catch, Natalie.
Perfect. Is that okay?
Yes, I still second.
Okay. We have a motion by Danielle, a second by Michelle. Any other further discussion? This is also an ordinance requiring a roll call vote, starting with Natalie.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 13. That's you as well, Carol, isn't it?
Yes.
All right.
Last time you'll hear from me tonight.
Ah, dang it.
Okay, item number 13 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Rimrock Commercial Plan Development Commercial Zone to allow extension of their drive-up parking stalls, including covered stalls for Target, on approximately 8.71 acres located at 275 South River Road for a project to be known as Target Drive-Up. So we've got our general location. This is for Target. This is for their online shoppers to have a place to park while the employees bring out their items to them. This is zoomed in. So this right here, this box is showing the location of the current drive-up stalls. There's only 8. I did go out there. This is like a Tuesday mid-morning. There they are. There's the 8 stalls. And this is what they want to do, is they want to add 4 more stalls to this area where they have the 8, and then they want to cover these. And then they also want to add 12 more stalls here, and those won't be covered. So a total of 24 online or parking stalls for online pickup. Here's kind of a drawing or rendering of what the covering will look like. They will have signs directing the traffic to here. And then they are going to be they'll be losing 1 tree in this area to put in the covered parking, and then they'll be disturbing these areas for the installation. This is another on-ground or at-level site. This right here, this is the row of the parking. This is the same time I took the other picture. But this is the parking that would be lost for the online delivery parking stalls. So when we looked at this, when we talked to the applicants about this as staff, we thought about the other big box stores that we have and where are their online stalls. This is Walmart, the St. George Walmart. Their drive-up location is on the side of their store. And then we have the Mall Drive Smiths, or the Dinosaur Crossing Smiths, and their drive-up is also on the side, kind of located out of the way. There were concerns that this location that they were wanting to put this at, that it was a little bit dangerous because we're making customers go that much further out, and everybody that's been to Target knows how crazy it is in that parking lot. So this was a recommendation from the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval of adding the drive-up stalls, but they felt that they should all be moved to the north side of the store, and that is this location right here. Right now, it's just an empty parking lot. There's they're not really using this. They felt this would be safer. The employees could, there is a big sidewalk that goes all the way along the frontage of Target that they could come back and drop off the deliveries, which would free up closer spots for the customers and make it a little bit safer. So I do have a representative here from the applicant if you have questions, or if you have any questions for me.
I'd love to hear from them as to why they chose that straight out front.
Hi, I'm Joanna Graham with Kimley Horn. We're representing Target for this project. So they originally chose the location out front. The inside of their building kind of facilitates the drive-up area being in that location. They have an area where they can store the orders that are ordered online, and then there's a door actually right out front of the building that allows that location to be best for the employees. I know we talked a lot about safety at Planning Commission, but when you think about it, I mean, either, you know, you're coming to the store and walking into the store, or a Target employee is bringing the goods out to you. So in terms of like pedestrians in that area, it really won't increase or decrease the amount of pedestrians in that area. So those are the reasons that Target chose it. It's the quickest route for their employees to come right out that door and to the drive-up stalls.
Question.
Do you guys have any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll just make a comment. I think I would tend to agree with the Planning Commission on this as someone who frequents this Target a lot. Parking is tough in this one, in this area. It's always tough, even, and so I think removing parking for that, I mean, I always find that I'm parking closer to the north side, even when there's less parking stalls there. So, and whereas that space up at the top is not heavily used. So I would tend to agree with that for the overall flow of the
Does the applicant
development.
have any issue with that, with moving it there?
So we talked a lot about this over the past month. They are amenable to moving it to the north location. It's not their preferred location, obviously. They're looking at having to go in and make changes to the inside of the store and adding a door to the side of the store just to make that, you know, better for their employees and things like that. So it's not their preferred location, but they did hear Planning Commission's concerns and are willing to work with the city. So,
Because I almost think for the employee, rather than having to walk across that busy, you know, area where cars are going back and forth, walking straight down that sidewalk to just a designated lot almost seems safer.
yeah, like I said, it's just a longer path. I mean, the door is probably where you see the thick part of that sidewalk there. That's about where the door is. So that's a pretty far distance when you think of how big these Target buildings actually are. So they kind of look for the shortest path just because these employees are running back and forth so much. They were going to add a crosswalk and a couple stop signs as well. They're doing this nationwide, so they put a big emphasis on safety. So they were planning, you know, if the location was where they proposed originally, to add those safety features for the pedestrian safety there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can see the pros and cons of both locations, so I'll go with whatever you guys feel.
I unfortunately for them, they have to put another door in, but I too am a shopper at Target, and I just feel like that would be the safer thing to move it to the north side. You know, they create the door and have their people come out and hand you your groceries there. Because even if there was another crosswalk, people don't always honor those.
I think if we're doing it for safety, then it doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, for the exact reason that she said. I mean, it's either the shoppers coming in, there's people crossing that constant, all of us parking there, we're doing the same thing, you know? So, but if it's better overall, just for flow and for customers to be able to park closer that are going to get out of their car and come in, that I understand. But to me, safety one way or another, I think they should put stop signs right there anyway, even if we have them use the top, because it is a pedestrian. It's a little scary right there to walk out as a pedestrian.
John, did Emily have anything specifically to say about that? She's our traffic engineer on Planning Commission.
I can tell you there's a lot of discussion regarding the parking. Once you remove that parking, if you've been to Target, you know the turn right there often backs up, and when you're turning, people aren't able to maneuver through that parking lot fast enough, and sometimes it'll back up on River Road. And so there was some concern if you start removing the parking over in that area, it may cause additional issues just by removing the parking. And so there was quite a bit of discussion regarding that those are the best parking stalls for the people that are shopping at Target.
John, do you mean if we put it where they requested, it will make the driving in even worse? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because
Okay.
now you're removing all of those parking stalls that normally the patrons would be able to park, and now you're removing those.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of concern with just those movements and creating even more of a bottleneck, more of a parking issue in that already existing area.
But that's also could be kind of a wash too, because they might be the same customer who would normally come and walk in, but now they're just coming and parking and having it delivered. So it's kind of a wash.
If you're ready for a motion, I'll make a motion and we
let's
can vote.
go for it.
However we want to vote. I'll consider, we make a motion that we amend the Rimrock Commercial Plan Development Commercial PDC zone to allow the extension of drive-up parking stalls, including covered stalls, for Target on approximately 8.71 acres located at 275 South River Road for a project to be known as Target Drive-Up, with the recommended with the recommendation location of the Planning Commission.
Second.
So we have a motion by Greg, a second by Natalie. Is there any further clarification or discussion on the motion? Okay, so this is also our last ordinance, right? So this requires a roll call vote, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Wes. Oh, hey, Wes, give me a minute before you go. I noticed there's just some scouts that came in, and they might not have known that we started our meeting early, right? Yeah, Mom, okay. So what we would, if you're okay with that, Adam, I'm going to recognize them now and have, if you would, come up and tell us who you are and where you're from, what troop. Come up. Don't be shy. Speak into the microphone. Yeah, and you step up to the microphone, each one of you, and tell us who you are, and what troop you are part of.
So we're a part of Troop 1830, and we are in the Green Valley area.
Perfect. Tell me your name.
Eric.
Eric. You the patrol leader? No? That's all right. Someone had to be brave enough to get up there, right? Eric, what's your last name?
Hamrick.
Awesome. Step up there. Who's next? Tell us who you are. Don't be shy.
I'm Spencer Draper.
Spencer Draper. Nice. Don't be shy. It won't hurt.
I'm Parker Norman.
Parker, welcome.
I'm Weston Shirtliff.
Shirtliff. Perfect. And last but not least,
I'm Xander.
what was that?
Xander.
What's your last name?
Same as his.
Awesome. I was going to guess this other one was your big brother. This way you were acting there. So, welcome. We did start early tonight just because of the Iron Man going on. There's some other things going on tonight, so we started early so we could get done in time. So, you guys have heard of the Iron Man, right? The Iron Man race? Yep, that's going on. Okay. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. All right. Go ahead, Wes. I guess if you need to take a break, just sneak out. We'll just power on through.
I've read this scout book. Whether you're here 5 minutes or 2 hours, you still get to count it. So
Yeah, that's right.
The mother's
That's
in
right.
luck.
Yeah, she's lucky. Lucky
She's
you
lucky.
didn't know we started early. We started at 3, so you missed a lot of good stuff.
Okay, item 14 is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a one-lot residential subdivision called DeVario PA 18. The site is located on the southwest corner of the intersection of DeVario Canyon Drive and Gap Canyon Drive. Property is 9.43 acres. So basically, it's just, so right here is Gap Canyon Drive, right to the east, and to the north is DeVario Canyon. So it's at that intersection. And basically, this is just to create this one-lot subdivision right there, so that it can be it can be subdivided in the future. So it's just created one lot that they then can sell and then subdivide if they want in the future.
Any questions, council? It's a preliminary plat.
What zoning does that sit under? Oh, it's part of the, or
Yeah, so it's R110, like the whole area was R110, and then I'm assuming they'll come back and do a zone change on it at some point.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for DeVario PA 18, a one-lot residential subdivision located within the DeVario development.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Greg. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do we need to acknowledge that Councilwoman Michelle Tanner is absent for a moment? Item number 15, Wes, just keep going.
Okay, item 15 is a request to approve a preliminary plat to dedicate 8 open space parcels called DeVario Open Space Dedication Plat. So basically, in the development agreement between the city and DeVario, these areas are designated on their master plan as open space areas. So this is just creating, this will be the preliminary plat that will be followed by a final plat that will just dedicate these areas here as 8 open space parcels. And then I think their request is they'll probably change the zone from R110 to open space on all of those. So it's just the creation of these 8 open space parcels. This will be the future neighborhood park right there.
What will those others be?
Just open space, natural open space areas. The rest of them will be.
A lot of those have ridge lines, don't they? And some of them
Yeah,
have bike trails.
so this one I believe is a wash. I think this one's a wash. This is the end of Box Canyon where it comes in under Sunbrook. This was a wash, and I think this is a wash right here. This is a ridge line right here that leads down to Box Canyon Wash right there.
Is that part of the open space that gets deeded back to the city? That, and so it's do not disturb during construction, is that correct?
Yeah, it's open space that is dedicated to the city.
And is the developer putting in the park, or is the city putting in the park?
Per the agreement, the developer is responsible to dedicate and construct the park.
To city standards, correct?
Yeah.
So we like open space. I had one concern with this as part of the master plan. I think there was talk, in the Red Cliffs Reserve, I sit on that board, and there was talk of possibly exchanging some of these lands or putting them in the reserve to get access in another area.
Right.
And I think if we dedicate these to open space, I don't know if it's part of this council's purview to be able to do this or not, but I don't think that they should be put into that because then there could be possible issues with the residents that are buying into here with the open space and these canyons and things where they'd have more issues accessing them, more restrictions and things if they were put into that. So I don't know if that's something we could say, yeah, well, absolutely we're for making open space, but they should not be dedicated or swapped for lands in the Red Desert Reserve.
Did we get an email or a letter from somebody? Different place? Oh, okay. Was it not on this, Jamie?
Yeah, it was on this area right there.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm talking about something a little bit separate than that.
Yeah, the email we received was from a property owner there in Orencio Point that wanted to buy some of that open space for their personal use. He was actually here in the meeting when we started. I was able to speak to him and tell him why this open space is coming to the city, that it's part of the development agreement, that it's not possible for us to subdivide it off and sell part of it, that it, you know, Mr. Teepin's very concerned that we keep all the open space because we're enforcing it against him, so he was fine with that, and I just explained that to him while he was here. So.
Thank you. I know some of their concern, I think in the email, was what you were mentioning about public access and different things like that, so.
Yeah.
But you're right, I see what you're saying and agree with what Greg was saying as well. And thank you for taking care of that. Any other questions?
Well, I guess that makes me curious, even though I understand what you're saying, Greg, but then I want to make sure that there is, I think Mark is planning on there being public access. You're just saying you don't want it traded for.
Yeah, what you can do is you can put the open space, which it'll always stay open space, which is great. But you can say, in some cases, you can swap out some lands and say this is now Red Desert, the reserve space. So now it falls under those restrictions, and maybe it needs fence, or maybe you're not supposed to go in there. It's just certain things. We don't know how that's going to go in the future.
Sure.
So I just don't think that areas that are around this dense area, and it's part of what people bought into in this area, I don't think we want to make it be part of the reserve. So I'd like to make sure that it doesn't become that.
And yet the access will still be there, which
The
is what
access
their concern is.
Yeah,
so the access is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was asking.
We just don't want more restrictions on it is what we want.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Perfect. Good clarification. Any other questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for DeVario Open Space, which is to create 8 open space parcels located at the intersection of Sunbrook Drive and Gap Canyon Drive within the DeVario development.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Natalie. Any other further discussion?
Discussion is, can we add can we add that stipulation? Is that something we can do or no?
It's a great question. I mean, I think we understand the intent of the council.
Under our code, we wouldn't be able to transfer that property without coming to you first anyway. So there's no ability for anyone at the city to transfer or move around or change this property without coming to the council first. So.
Oh, okay, great. That's great.
Okay, perfect. So motion stands as is. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And do we need to acknowledge that Councilwoman Michelle Tanner is present? So.
Okay. Item 16 is request to approve a preliminary plat for a 4-lot residential subdivision called Glenview. Site is located at 2262 South and 2100 East. So this is 2100 East right here. This is Greystone up in this area here.
Oh, you just hit my house with that cursor.
So this, again, shows you your zoning is R110. So basically it's to create these 4 lots here. There is an access right now that's being used by these property owners to the rear. And I'm not sure, maybe Jimmy was the only one here. When we did Cactus Flats, the intention was that this road in the future would extend up and come out along here, thus providing access to these parcels that remain here behind as they're landlocked. And so that was kind of the intention at that time. Plus it provide the Hafen property, John Hafen's property access to a road other than this front. So the request was that the developer then dedicate this as a roadway right through here. On the one you have in your packet, it was dedicated he was showing it as a 50-foot. I talked to James and said, really a 45 would probably be plenty to service this area here. So he updated it. And so one change from this that you're looking at is this road here on the very south of Lot 4. He only shows dedicating 22.5 feet. Normally when a first developer comes in on a road, a future roadway, they dedicate a minimum of 25 feet pavement, 2.5 feet curb and gutter, and 5 feet sidewalk. so that they have two-way access on the road, and then the rest of the improvements are finished when the property owner on the other side develops. So right now, he's only showing 22.5. He'll need to extend that up 10 feet just to provide the 25 feet right there of pavement, so it allows for 25 feet of pavement, curb gutter, and sidewalk. So I'll have to extend that up 10 feet to provide that. He's also requested not to build the road right now. He's met with the property owner actually slopes to the west, and so he doesn't want to build the road. He's afraid of creating a kind of a drainage issue with John Hafen and some of these property owners. And he's talked to them, and most of them don't want it paved now until future development occurs so that drainage can be dealt with. So his proposal is to not pave the roadway now, but to give the city the money. City would put it in a fund that at some future date that would be then used when Hafen's or somebody else develops to then pave that portion of the roadway. And that's what we did on, just so you're aware, that's what we did with John Hafen's or Glenn Bundy's project right here. Is you'll notice that this was never paved right here. We finished the curb gutter and sidewalk, but we just couldn't get enough area to pave a road. So Glenn paid for that at that time, and then we just put it into a fund that will be used later as John Hafen develops his property right there. So that's what he's proposing to do, is to just give the city the money for that and use it at a later date. And then the one thing I talked to James about is he'll need to extend the curb gutter and sidewalk along the south side of Lot 4, not pave it, just so that it's a finished lot. So whoever develops it in the future when the road's paved, you don't have somebody impacting your lot and any of your improvements. So that was just the other request. So just the additional 10 feet of right-of-way he'll need to dedicate, finish the sidewalk and curb and gutter on the south side of Lot 4, and then his proposal was to just pay the city the cost of finishing that road. And I visited with Cameron. As you probably know, this would be the last portion. John Hafen's would be the last bit not improved. So we're going to look into next year's budget, see if we can come up some funds. Because I met with John years ago when Glenn was, and he has no desire to develop this. In fact, he probably would rather have nobody develop it. But so I'm going to get with him and see if it's possible that we can at least finish the road and curb and gutter along his frontage, since it could be forever.
Wes, are these 4 lots all accessing off?
They all will access along 2100 East.
Isn't there a huge drop off right there?
I think
at
there
the
is,
top?
and so he'll
They'll
have to
build
just
it up?
build them up
Okay.
so that they come up to the lot, to the roadway height.
Yeah, it's a huge drop off.
Is it? I haven't been out there in a long time. I can't remember.
Yeah, he's got himself a project there, but he's going to do it. So what? Just so you know, that's part of the issue too. Is it would restrict the access to the Hafen property as far as if they put that road in now because of the elevation change. He'd have a hard time getting in his gates there.
Right.
He keeps cattle there. That's all he ever wants to do. He told me over this last weekend that he's going to outlast me as far as how long he's going to keep cows there. So I don't think there's any intention for him to develop. So we don't want to encroach on him either. And the other property owner there happens to be my aunt. It would create some difficulties for them as well as far as accessing their property if that road goes in. So, I mean, I think the developer's willing to do it all. He just doesn't want to make the neighbors mad. So,
and that would be, going this direction would be a little bit out of the norm from what we would typically require. And so I think we would maybe want to state some of those reasons on the record as part of the motion as to why we're doing it this way. I think it makes sense. The fact that you've got an existing private access, it's a little bit out of the box, really.
Yeah, and you actually have 2 properties behind there that have access. So I forgot about the Brinkerhoffs are there as well. So, and all 3 of them would just as soon not have that mess. Just elevation change makes it hard for them to access.
So is the other is Glenn's former home staying? Just the shop?
No, none of it.
Okay.
The shop goes as well.
But the roadway will be finished on that street. They'll have curb gutter and sidewalk.
So they'll have it down to there again, like I indicated. We're Kevin and I are looking into next year as we have developer matching funds that are impact fees that we sometimes use to finish little sections like this. That's issues created by development, so. we're
One
gonna
of
look
his
into-
concerns too was because he takes his cattle to Pinto, he does back a large truck in there. And so a curb,
Yeah.
we have to figure out how to make sure he can do that without going over a curb, because
Right.
those large cattle trucks have a pretty low belly.
Right.
So they wouldn't be able to make it over a curb, so we have to make sure he has access in there to his.
Yeah. So we'll have to see if there's some way we can make something work to at least
Yeah.
kind of finish the
And
payment.
to answer Natalie's question, if you look at the north side of that property, is that an access road?
This right here?
North, clear to the north.
Oh, up here?
Yeah.
I can't remember, James, isn't this his
That's
property?
his driveway, but then below that,
Is that Brinkerhoff's house? The access to it?
He's
Oh,
adding it to this parcel right here.
okay.
So basically that remainder will go to this parcel right here.
You know, I think
and
the,
so it'll be
yeah, because he
accessed.
has a large parcel behind his house, which may or may not come back someday for a new home.
Oh, okay.
But the whole idea there is to fill that pretty deep hole, because if you go down there, and all the neighbors on the other side of the street have been bugging me for years, that corner right there is super dangerous.
Right here?
Because the road narrows, people still park on there, and you can really only get one car past there, and you come around the corner, and all of a sudden you're coming head on with another car.
Wide that roadway is right there?
What's that?
How wide that is right there?
It's not, I don't know how wide it is.
It's
but
about
not-
an alleyway length wide? Is it
Yeah.
about
And I go on that every day. I just live right around the corner. So I'm glad that James is taking on that project and getting that fixed. I don't know how it ever got done that way in the first place, because it is super dangerous, but there's no other alternative besides to fill that in. And I'm telling you, it's probably 12 feet down
really?
right there. I'll bet. It's at least 10, because I can jump that high. I'm kidding. No, so this is good. This is going to be a good thing, because that roadway needs to be fixed right there. And I'm glad we're able to work with him so that it works for the neighbors too, because I live with all those people. And it makes sense. It does,
ready
it
for
really
a
does.
motion?
Oh, that'd be really weird. Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Glenview, a 4-lot residential subdivision located at 2262 South and 2100 East, to include remarks about why and how that was permitted in this location by Adam.
Christina, you got that?
So we have a motion by Natalie, a second by Michelle. Is there any questions or clarification on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 17 is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 2-lot commercial subdivision called Staybridge, size located at 1301 Sunland Drive. So here's Sunland Drive right here, Staybridge Hotel here. When they built the Staybridge Hotel, they left this piece vacant right here to right along the Sunland Drive there, with the intent always to have another commercial building there. They now want to just come back in and create a 2-lot subdivision, Staybridge, and this new parcel right here. They will have to have cross-access, because they'll be using this cross-access agreement on the plat, as they'll need to share that access here on coming from Sunland Drive, and then the private one coming from this right there. They'll have to do some type of cross-access, as it'll come through Staybridge to get there, and it'll be a cross-access / utility, as the utilities come through those locations right there. That would be the only condition on the plat.
Any questions?
I just was curious, is there sidewalk, Wes, all along there on that side closest to the hotels?
Right here?
Uh-huh.
There may not be in here, because there was with this. I know when they built Staybridge, but I don't know if we made them do it on that one, and I'd have to, if not, we'd require it obviously with the development of that property.
Okay.
There is curb and gutter and sidewalk
Okay.
All the way down
along
here.
that parcel.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Staybridge, a 2-lot commercial subdivision located approximately 1301 South Sunland Drive.
Second.
We have a motion by Greg, second by Danielle. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ooh, wow. We at the end? Do we have any appointments? No? Reports. Danielle, do you have any reports?
You know, I just wanted to make sure you guys all knew that Lindsay Boyer, who has been the director of the Dove Center for a long time, the executive director, she took a job in Salt Lake, and I know, and so we're looking for a new director, but you know, if you know her, send your love to her. She has been an absolutely amazing director of the Dove Center, and our community is really lucky to have Dove, and she's really grown it and made it, you know, the amazing viable program that it is. I mean, they've expanded into Washington City, they're expanding into Hurricane, you know, finding these smaller spaces, safe houses. So it's been a really great program. So just that, and then also obviously just mentioning the Ironman this weekend, and everybody come down. Everybody come down.
Nothing much going on, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And if you missed Iron Kids, if they do it, they not only do it the Ironman in the, I think in the fall.
That's
but
the
I guess
cutest
our
part,
marathon
right?
does it too. But you could skip the Ironman and see those little kids run. There was every shape, size, kids crying, parents encouraging. And then they got to go through the finish line, and there was hundreds of people down there clapping them on. All of a sudden, they had all this energy to finish. So those kids are pretty cute.
Yeah, very cool. Anything else, Danielle? I got nothing.
Me neither.
Nothing. Wow, awesome. Do we have a need for a closed session? No need for a closed session. Scouts, there are some chips and salsa in the back in honor of Cinco de Mayo. So you guys can help yourself to that after the meeting. And other than that, I would say
Make a motion dismissed.
motion to adjourn by Natalie. Second. Second by Michelle. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you.